This is me realizing we will get through this movie.
Dive right back in.
We're almost there, Ben.
We're almost there. We're almost there. Okay. Oh my God, my acid reflux has been so bad today. Anyway.
Yeah, that was me yesterday. Pizza and meatballs, a bad combination.
I think I just ate too much bread today. Getting old. Fun stuff.
Shall we get back to it? Yeah, let's just do the old bitchy men thing right now. The thing with my stomach and the acid, it's coming out. It's disgusting.
What is this?
I hate it.
What is this? I don't even.
No, I used to be able to eat all the lox I wanted to. Now I have one bite. I'm choking my guts out. Like it? You can keep it. I've had to go back to the way things were. Anyway, back to the podcast.
Welcome to episode number 9 of Central Intelligence Cinema. Today, Jason and I will be reviewing the Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase spy comedy, Spies Like Us. We hope it's a break from, well, everything. Take it away, Pierce.
Beg your pardon, forgot to knock.
Welcome to the CIC, initiating security clearance.
My name is Napoleon Solo. Bond. James Bond. Ethan Hunt. Felix Leiter.
Ilya Kuryakin.
Identity confirmed.
Now, pay attention, 007.
Welcome to Central Intelligence Cinema, a podcast dedicated to spy movies and secret agent pop culture.
Your mission, should you decide to accept it.
Remember, nothing ever goes according to plan.
Tom, what do you think you're doing?
Even the British handbells. You expect me to talk?
Yeah, baby!
Recorded from an Ace Tomato Company shipping container in an undisclosed location somewhere in Pakistan. It's the CIC podcast. I'm Jason, and with me, as always, is Ben Esslinger.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jason. And welcome back to the CIC. Buckle up, kids, because we're about to dive into a pretty bad movie.
We knew it was going to be. We knew it was going to be.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be kind of a train wreck. So Spies Like Us, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to dive into Spies Like Us. Oh, my. You know, I really, man. Okay, just right off the top, I have to say this. I didn't expect it to be a good spy movie at all, which it wasn't.
No. It held up on that end.
But what it didn't do was I expected it to be funnier.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be. But
I would have to say it wasn't funny at all. The only time I laughed was when Bob Hope showed up. And I think you laugh when Bob Hope shows up, period.
You just do. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just, well, and the fact that, yeah, he has one of the best lines in the whole thing. He's like, well, I'm glad I'm not in here for, or whatever he says right there. I'm glad I'm not ill. Oh.
Doctor.
So should we get into this awful fucking movie?
this entire shipping crate of not tomatoes, but shit.
Yeah, very rotten tomatoes.
Very rotten tomatoes.
Very rotten tomatoes.
Chevy Chase.
Get us the hell out of here!
Dan Aykroyd.
To think my high school guidance counselor said I'd never amount to anything.
Spies Like Us.
Okay, Spies Like Us. Released in 1985, directed by John Landis, who somehow made the Kentucky Fried Movie, Animal House, The Blues Brothers, An American Werewolf in London, and Trading Places. And somehow then he made this steamy pile of...
I bet you he looked at it and it's like, on paper, it looks phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that they had the easiest time selling this idea. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
Imagine this. They're spies, but it's goofy and it's Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase at the height of their comedic prowess. Of course, it's what could go wrong? Apparently, fucking everything. But yeah, really shocking. I mean, John Landis knows how to make movies well.
Right. He knows how to make music videos. He knows how to do everything.
He made Thriller. He made the Thriller music video. I mean, what happened? Anyway, let's just keep going.
Move along.
Moving along. So as far as writing goes, Dan Aykroyd and Dave Strangebrew Thomas wrote this. Also credited are Lowell Gantz and Babalu Mandel, who I'm guessing are both punch-up writers. They both worked on Splash. I don't know too much more about them.
Yeah, they actually did a lot of writing in the 80s. Also did a lot of stuff on TV.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I get the feeling they must have been sort of, at least on this movie, like punch-up writers, where they were just trying to somehow help it along, which apparently there was not a whole lot to save this thing. But I think the problem you have when you have two sketch comedy improv guys trying to write a script is I think they like to have. Well, I think they wrote the idea, they made some set pieces, and I think they expected to go onto the set and just do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna Dan Aykroyd my way through this. Chevy's gonna Chevy his way through this, and we're gonna be fine. We'll give everybody else some stupid dialogue, and we'll move along. And I think the problem was neither of them were able to Aykroyd or Chase their way through it.
Right.
And I think that Chevy was more to blame on that than Dan Aykroyd was, but I'll get into that a little later, probably.
Okay. Because I definitely think, for me, I actually kind of thought the opposite, because I felt like Chevy Chase had enough physical comedy that he was sort of making up as he went to sort of occasionally be funny, whereas Dan Aykroyd was stuck being the straight man in a lot of cases, and so he didn't really have anything to do except the dialogue that had been written for the most part.
Right. But I mean, that worked for him in Ghostbusters just fine, because Bill Murrayed his way through that movie, and he's Bill Murray.
Yeah.
I think Chevy was still still trying to be the leading man guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And because I don't remember if this was before or after Fletch.
I get the feeling this was right at the cusp of the downfall of Chevy Chase when his ego kind of just starts to kind of take over and doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the thing. It's like he was caught between trying to be the handsome leading man and also trying to be the funny Chevy Chase. It says here Fletch came out the same year. So maybe he spent it all on Fletch.
I mean, he could have spent all his energy on that and just sort of phoned in Spies Like Us. I mean who
paycheck's
knows?
A paycheck, but he did better acting in that Paul Simon video than I think he did in this movie. So
oh, man.
I'm putting this squarely on Chevy Chase's shoulders for how bad this movie turned out. I think if you'd have put John Belushi in that role with Aykroyd, if you'd have put Bill Murray in that role with Aykroyd, anybody he had chemistry with, I think that this movie is 10 times better.
Yeah. Well, and Chevy Chase is notorious for being difficult, notorious for being a difficult person to work with. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. So, well, anyway, moving on. Let's, in the numbers, the budget for this movie was $22 million and it made just over $77 million worldwide. So they did make their money. Wouldn't call it a blockbuster for several reasons, actually. It was one of those things.
$85. That's a pretty good haul.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they knew that they were going to get their money out of it. You know, you make a trailer and Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase are in it. Chances are you're going to make your money back no matter what it is, at least in 1985. So music, Elmer Bernstein did it, and he has done a lot of good things, and yet it doesn't really matter so much.
No,
because
although I would say this is what cracked me up when I was watching it was that it sounded like a lot of Elmer Bernstein stuff from other Elmer Bernstein soundtracks.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
His
I don't know how
leftovers,
much
maybe.
of that was, yeah, I don't know how much of that was original, but I know a lot of his stuff gets used in other movies because it's so very run of the mill.
Right. It just works in everything. Just
right.
Oh, well, this works in a exciting, action chase scene. Throw it here. Yeah.
Oh, here's a comedy womp womp moment. This music's perfect for that.
Right. And then, of course, we've got Paul McCartney farting out the theme song, which I have to admit, and I'm ashamed to say it. When I was a kid, I kind of liked the song, but I think I was just too young. This is one of those movies, and I don't know if I should be promoting this yet or not, but Jason and I are promoting a new podcast soon, or we're developing a new podcast very soon, and this movie would fall right in line with our new podcast because this movie, when I was a kid, or at least my memories of this movie when I watched it as a kid, I really liked it. And now I'm watching it now and I'm just like, oh my God, this is just one of those. I was young. It just seemed funny at the time. And now I'm watching it as a 46-year-old and oh my God, this is horrible.
Yeah. So. Well, it's funny. It says the trivia says that this was the final American solo top 10 hit for Paul McCartney in the United States of America. So what a crappy thing to go out on.
Well, maybe that's why he did. Maybe that's why it was his last.
That could be. Well, they say solo. I'm like, did he join a band? You're telling me that he hasn't a top 10 hits at Spies Like Us? Come on, that can't be right.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's garbage.
Yeah, it's not a good song. It's terrible. So I guess we'll get into the Bond guys and Bond girls and all that sort of thing. We've got Chevy Chase, of course, as Emmett Fitzhume. Chevy Chase being Chevy Chase in the 80s, man. That's all he is. Like I said, I mean, I did like some of his physical comedy because at the time he still had a little bit of that in his back pocket that he could do.
Right.
But I do think you're right. I think chemistry wise, he had some sort of issue, working well with the other Bond guy, so to speak, Dan Aykroyd as Austin Milbarge. And yeah, I think you're right. Because I mean, Dan Aykroyd did Dan Aykroyd, which is kind of play the straight role, kind of play the smart guy, and being used as a foil against whoever the more goofy character is.
One of these days, speaking of the other podcasts we're developing, we'll have to watch Dr. Detroit, where he's the star of the show. And it's a completely different ballgame, man. When he gets to just be himself, without having to play second fiddle, he really shines.
Yeah. So maybe that was it too. Maybe he was trying to get out of the way too often of Chevy in this instead of sort of taking the wheel sometimes, or whatever the case is. It's rough. This movie's rough.
Well, and it also makes me think, he held his own against Eddie Murphy in Trading Places the year before this.
Yeah, that pretty much says
Eddie Murphy, right?
Eddie friggin' Murphy, yeah.
And you're like, that's Dan Aykroyd. Eddie Murphy is acting with Dan Aykroyd, not Dan Aykroyd's acting with Eddie Murphy.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm getting off the soapbox.
So the Bond girls, we've got Heidi Sorensen, who plays Fitzhume's supervisor, who has a career that pretty much only is limited to a very specific type of character, usually one that shows off boob.
Boobs.
So, and then we've got Karen Boyer, played by Donna Dixon, who also happens to be Dan Aykroyd's wife. Which
yes, she is.
Well done, Danny. Good job. That's all I got to say.
We definitely have a Billy Joel, Christy Brinkley thing going on there.
Oh yeah.
But, some chicks dig the rocker, some chicks dig the guys that can make you laugh. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. And then we've got the brunette Russian rocket crew member. They didn't even give her a name.
They didn't.
There's no name in IMDb for her. She's just the hot brunette Russian rocket crew member who is played by Vanessa Angel, and she is gorgeous. Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. I did like, she must have gotten that decadent capitalist underwear from somebody at the American consulate or something, because it seemed very, very silky satiny for being out in the snow with the missile launcher and whatnot.
Yeah, not exactly practical. Maybe she just. And then we have a massive list of cameos, which include Frank Oz, Bernie Casey, Terry Gilliam, Ray Harryhausen, Bob Hope, Joel and Larry Cohen, B.B. King, Sam Raimi, and Edwin Newman. Tell me if I've missed any. Have I missed any?
I think you've got just about everybody. I will tell everyone, try and guess which one Frank Oz is. I love to say that to everybody when he's in a movie.
All right. Should we get into this in earnest?
Can we get this into this so we can get done with it as quickly as possible? Absolutely.
So, the pre-title sequence, it starts in a snowy forest and all these deer scatter as this giant truck comes in with a big plow on the front and is taking down these trees and carrying what appears to be a big old nuclear missile through the forest, like you do. And then you see a Russian soldier walking alongside it. You see the patch on his jacket. So obviously they're somewhere in Russia, probably Siberia. Then it cuts to these satellites in space. And this part actually did make me chuckle just a little bit because it zooms in. Because it zooms in on one from the US, which it says in print, just as the door is opening, it says of no military value.
Yeah.
just so that in case anybody was wondering. Yeah, so that door slides open and you see apparently a very powerful telescopic lens, which is taking a picture of said truck and missile. And then you see a printout of the picture, and the picture goes into a briefcase, which is then handcuffed to an agent who walks out of an Ace Tomato Company building.
Yes.
And that guy gets into an Ace Tomato Company van that drives off, and we get the credits. Yeah. So that's what we know from the pre-title. We get into super just boring credits, just really bare bones. Put the title up on the thing and on the Chiron and, get that out of the way. It's just going over shots of the van, making its way through and passing by the Capitol. Yay. And it's very TV-like, actually.
No doubt. And before we get into the first act of the movie, I want to say right up front, I really had no idea what this movie was about until the very end of the movie. I feel certain that they established it in somewhere in one of the scenes, but I'm like, what does the missile have to do with anything? And it wasn't until they started making gigantic space lasers I finally figured it out.
Yeah, you don't find it out until the very, very end. The only thing that you find out, you find out everything else really, really quickly, though. It's just what that missile has to do with anything. That's what's so funny about this movie is that they established this in the pre-title, this missile thing, that's a big important thing. But honestly, the most important part of this movie is the fact that these two schmoes get picked as decoys to attract attention away from the actual agents who are supposed to do something that has to do with the missile. But we don't know what that thing is with the missile. But it almost seems like the missile, I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It just, I kept going, what is the point of this?
Yeah.
There has to be an end game, and literally did not know the end game until the end game.
Yeah, you don't find out anything. I mean, maybe credit due, I guess.
I have expected Gene Hackman and Ned Beatty to jump on the back of the truck and rewire the missiles, so Christopher Reeve had to go fly and stop the one in Hackensack, New Jersey.
Might have been a better movie. Anyway, so after the credits go by, the courier for the photo then arrives at what appears to be some kind of safe house. And that's when we're introduced to Mr. Ruby and Mr. Keys. And they do the little gag where the courier has to go in the closet while they look at the photo, which is weird.
Yeah.
It's such a weird, they lock him. Is he locked in? I don't remember. Anyway, he can't look at the photo, but he's attached to the briefcase, but he can't take the briefcase off his wrist. So he's locked in the closet while they look at this photo. I did think it was really funny that they said that the photos were great quality, 1985 technology. That was fun. And then and then big old General Sline comes in to look at the photo.
Steve Forrest.
He's a fun character in this movie, though. He's just that like warmongering, just, been in the military since he was 17 and he's worked his way up and to be super fucking important.
Totally. See, that guy will eternally be for me the captain from the original SWAT TV show.
Oh, okay. I never saw that actually, but
every time I see him, man, all I hear is ba-da-da, 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 ba-da-da.
So, so he comes in, and so then they set up that to go after this missile. They're looking at the picture, and they say to go after this missile, they're going to get 4 GLG-20 agents, 2 who are actually good, and 2 decoys. Right. Naturally, Chase and Aykroyd are the decoys, and that's basically almost the entire plot. Aside from what the missile is, what's going on with that missile, we now know 95% of the plot of this movie. So anyway, from there we cut to the Department of State where Chevy Chase works, and he's watching on a TV with headphones Gene Nelson, Virginia Mayo, and Ronald Reagan singing "I'll Be Loving You" from the musical She's Working Her Way Through College. Wah, wah. I had to look all that up, like what that musical was, and I mean I knew it was Ronald Reagan, but I didn't know the other 2 characters. I was like, okay. I guess, maybe if I was older in 1985, that would have been funnier to me. But
well,
granted,
it's playing on the whole Reagan thing being an actor.
Yeah, Reagan's an actor. He was president at the time, so yada yada yada. So anyway, so his coworker is on him about studying for the Foreign Service Board exam, which he's taking the next day. And Chevy, of course, acts like he knows everything, doing the Chevy Chase thing. And then mentions he's got to wait past the test anyway, since he's meeting with his supervisor for lunch, air quotes, lunch, which, of course, then cuts to him in bed post-coitus with his supervisor. We get the funny little quip where she's like, "You're not trying to tell me you're dying, are you?" And he's like, "Well, not anymore, no." Like he was going to.
Why is it funnier when you say it?
Yeah, again, phoning it in, probably. So from here we cut to the Pentagon, where we see Aykroyd's douchebag supervisor, Captain Heffling. He's making his way down to the underbelly of the Pentagon, where Aykroyd, aka Milbarge, is teaching himself Russian. I'm sort of setting up almost immediately that he's the smart one. And Heffling tries to kind of bust his balls about his responsibilities, despite the fact that he's taking care of everything. And a lot of this is just to basically explain that Milbarge is a genius of sorts. Heffling tells Milbarge that he has to, and then that's when Heffling sort of surprises Milbarge, saying that he has to take the Foreign Service Board exam the next day. And of course, Milbarge is pissed because he hasn't been made aware of this, and he calls out Heffling for sabotaging his chances on purpose. So he's stuck down in this pit doing Heffling's work instead of advancing. So then Milbarge goes home to study, and we cut to Fitzhume doing his job as some kind of press secretary. And it's basically just a bit showing he doesn't do his job very well, and he does this little hacky bit where he makes it sound like the microphone is cutting out, so he doesn't actually have to answer any questions, which does sort of work. Which is a classic
Chevy Chase thing, and it's funny.
Yeah,
he did that on SNL, I think, once or twice.
Yeah, I mean, it is hacky, but it is funny when he does it. So
because he does it so earnestly that it's kind of like a little bit of smoke and mirrors. It's hilarious.
Well, and it's also kind of funny too. in a weird sort of way, it was almost brought back current by the current situation that we're all in with Zoom meetings and shit like that, where people like there was that South Park episode. Did you see that where Cartman was on a classroom Zoom thing and he acted like he was freezing up, and then he took a picture of himself and put it in front of the camera on his, like in front of the computer cameras, and then he walked away from the computer and just left a freeze frame of his face in front of the cameras, so it looked like he was still listening. So
believe it or not, my wife has had that happen while teaching online with her students. So
they probably figured it out from that.
There you go.
So yeah, after that, I mean, really, almost this entire movie is just a series of comedy bits that they string together to hit, 10-second plot points. The first of which is them taking the Foreign Service Board exam, where a lot of Chevy Chase physical comedy takes place with props and a fake arm and all this. So he basically he attempts in every way possible to cheat on the exam. Some of the gags work, a lot of them don't. Like the thing where he's like spitting the paper out. I'm just like, really? Well, on top of it too, because he was talking the whole time, but prior to that, so like a lot of it just didn't work for me at all.
No. It was too hacky and it took too long.
Yes, that was the other thing. It was like an SNL skit that you were like, God, when are they just going to cut out of this?
Right. Cut the commercial.
Yeah. The only part of it that I really found even remotely funny was at the very end when he's literally on the floor just copying the answers. Like he had given up on even trying to be sly about it. He's just on the floor with the girls test, and he's just copying the answers. So then we cut to the Misters and General Sline looking at Fitzhugh and Milbarge's bios, not really caring since they're decoys anyway. So then, of course, Fitzhugh and Milbarge are ludicrously fast-tracked through the GLG 20 training.
Bernie Casey.
Yeah, and that's when we get Bernie Casey here. They're parachuted out of a plane into the forest and met by ninjas because it's 1985. So every movie from 1985 that had any action in it had ninjas in it. So
not just any ninjas. United States Army ninjas.
Yeah, white boy ninjas. Oh dear. Yeah. So anyway, that's when we. I do like when they're surrounded by the ninjas, and Chevy Chase pulls out the picture and he goes,
"Hey, this is my sister. You can all have her. I hear she's very good."
Like that did make me laugh, even though it's really bad taste. I still thought it was hilarious. So anyway, so then we get Colonel Rumbus calls off the ninjas and he fights half of them, and they're asking him why did he send the ninjas on them, and he was just trying to figure out what kind of men he was dealing with to train and where they were starting with. So basically, what did he say? What did he say in that moment? He was like, "So what'd you think?" He's like, "Pussies" or something like that. I forget what they.
Yeah, I think that was right. He just basically called them pussies and sent them on their way.
Yeah, we get some silly basic training scenes. I did like the one where the boat yanks them off the dock when they got rope around their wrists or whatever, and they're yeah, and they're just skipping across the water. That part was kind of funny. A lot of it was very just. And again, this is 1985, so maybe back then it seemed a little bit more original. But at this point in my life, going back and watching this movie, I'm just like, oh boy, this is just all like same run of the mill shit that you've ever seen. I did think that the G-Force training was kind of funny, partially because of the Moonraker connection. But I also, I thought the gag was funny when they came out and their faces were still all like, in the goofy face. Hair. Yeah. And so,
gotta go get something to eat? Yeah, let's head to the commissary.
Let's get some coffee. And then after a failed attempt to quit the training, finding out basically they're an involuntary part of this now. They're given their assignment and sent on their way to Pakistan, which is where we sort of roll into Act 2 of this movie.
Roll is right. So we see an Ace Tomato shipping container dropping out of the back of an airplane. It's parachuted down and lands just outside what we're told is a Pakistani village. It lands on a chicken pen because that's funny. Squash chickens are always funny.
Oh yeah, why
you would think it any different?
Yeah, killing chickens, sure.
I love the whole thing with the Ace Tomato thing with the running gag with it as being a cover front for the CIA, but it feels overplayed a little on this one. I mean, come on, tomatoes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why would you have something so obvious in Pakistan? But I get the gag. I mean,
why not have it? Why not have it in Pakistani? I don't know.
Hey, there you go. See, at least that would make a little
Same
bit
logo?
more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is what it is. So it hits the ground, squashes the chickens. Cargo door breaks open. Fitzhume and Milbarge are inside, drinking Budweiser and eating tortilla chips, as you do.
See, that was another thing. I was like, that's okay. I get the Budweiser thing because you don't get much more American beer than Budweiser, but the tortilla chips sort of like, I was like, okay, sure.
Obviously some sort of product placement there. Maybe Budweiser was running some sort of, I guess, a theme that year. I don't know.
Who knows?
But they're outside there, and a bunch of locals from the village that they crashed outside have come over, and all of them are armed. Chevy then tells the locals in Pakistani, I believe he was using a phrase book or something, for English to Pakistani translation. He basically says, if you let me go free, you may keep my friend's head for polo. And then, of course, all of the Pakistanis laugh and laugh and laugh, start grabbing at Aykroyd's head and shaking it around. And Chevy's like, oh, that's their way of greeting each other.
I'm a sucker for translative comedy like that. For some reason, it just works for me.
Chevy Chase had his moments in this movie. They were just very few and far between.
Yeah.
So just as all this is going on, these two blonde-haired gentlemen show up and identify themselves as their CIA contacts. They walk through the crowd, lead them off to their Jeep. It was so weird, the two people that they picked from it.
Yeah, I mean, they look like...
Yeah. The one guy was from Animal House.
Oh, okay.
He was the one that played the jock that terrorized them with the blonde girlfriend.
Okay.
And the other guy was in something in the 80s on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it was. But I mean, they couldn't have picked two people who more obviously look like bad guys if they put eye patches and goatees on them.
Yeah. It was pretty obvious. I mean, everything in this movie is really obvious. So
it's true. The only surprise is the reason for the movie.
Yeah. I think the only reason why the end of the movie is a surprise is because it's so sewed on to the end. Mm-hmm. It was like they didn't know what the end, when they were writing it, they didn't know what the end of this movie was or why they had to stop this missile until they were just like, well, shit, let's just make it about the Star Wars project.
Right. Or maybe there was an original ending to this movie when he wrote it, and they changed it to make it more topical.
Oh,
because I was looking at the trivia a little while ago, and it said that he originally wrote this for himself and Belushi before Belushi died. So that means that the script was at least 2 years old for when Belushi passed away. So maybe he decided that's the big woofy wowzer thing. Maybe that's what, selling the special effects got the movie people. I don't know. But I feel like there was another ending for this movie that didn't happen and maybe should have happened.
Indeed.
So they end up going into the Jeep. While they're in the Jeep, Fitzhume asks for the time, and when Milbarge sees the watch is Russian, he then asks if he can stop to take a leak, because Milbarge is the obvious smarter one of this group over here. And we get over there. We get another bit where Fitzhugh is just completely clueless to the fact that Milbarge wants him to play along, get out of the Jeep so they can escape.
Right.
Don't you need to go pee as well? No, I'm fine. No, I really think you should stop and pee at this point. That also got kind of old real quick.
Yeah.
But once they get out of the Jeep, they start walking away, and Milbarge explains that the two guys are KGB, which is right when the two KGB suddenly end up in front of them.
Yeah, they look up and suddenly they're right in front of them. Like, I feel like that was a gag that happened a lot in the 80s where they turn a corner and the person that was behind them is suddenly in front of them again. Like, that happens a lot in like movies from the 80s.
Yeah. But usually you have to be a vampire for that to happen.
Indeed.
Weak.
That joke will make sense if you listen to the very first episode of our new podcast coming soon.
So Milbarge gives some silly little Russian saying to distract them before they both stomp on their feet, which, always works outside of an Abbott and Costello movie.
Right. That's enough to just stop them dead in their tracks. KGB agents.
Absolutely. And our two protagonists jump into the Jeep and drive off.
Hey, so while we're at a stopping point, I just wanted to mention we would love to hear from viewers of the podcast. Whether it's a movie review idea or you just want to say hi, please feel free to email us at cicdeaddrop@gmail.com. That's all one word, cicdeaddrop@gmail.com. Also, if you do enjoy the podcast, we'd be most appreciative if you took a moment to give us a 5-star review on iTunes. That way, the podcast shows up higher on searches so we can build the CIC bigger and better. All right, let's get back to it.
So as they're driving, they realize that they kind of need to get somewhere else and fast so that the KGB agents can't find them. So They decide they're just going to drive until they run out of gas or get where they're going. And they're going to sleep in shifts until they get there. And of course, this prompts the little nighty-night. Mm-hmm.
Night.
Sleep tight.
Mm-hmm. Don't let the bed bugs bite.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's kind of a Chevy Chasey thing, but it goes on about 15 to 20 seconds too long. It stops being funny after the third attempt.
Yeah. That's a running theme in this movie, though. All of the little bits, they're all like SNL skits that go on a little bit too long. Right. And you're just like, you're like, all right, it's we're going to have to wait it out real long before this gets funny again.
And scene. Absolutely. You could do comedy that way. That's what Andy Kaufman used to do. He would take people down that path to the point where they didn't get it, but then he got it to the point where they start laughing because they didn't get it.
Right.
But Andy Kaufman wasn't in this movie, and so it doesn't work. That's all I have to say. So they get through this stupid little bit. They keep driving, and eventually they come across a man on horseback carrying a machine gun. Fitzhugh stops and asks if there's an airport nearby, and of course the guy calls his entire army out from behind the ridge to come down and surround him. Chase, of course, has to wake up Aykroyd because it's his turn to drive.
Right.
And Aykroyd identifies the soldiers as being Afghani freedom fighters who are supposed to be their allies. Now,
this part is funny.
Well, it's funny, but from a historical standpoint, it's important to remember that at some point in time, they kind of liked us more than they liked the people they liked less, which, in this day and age isn't quite the same thing.
Yeah.
But it is kind of funny that they immediately, no, we're not your friends.
Yeah.
And after telling them they're Americans, they string them upside down by a rope.
Yeah.
So just as one of the warriors is about to shank Milburn, a British doctor comes out of nowhere who I swear to God I thought was the guy who played Renee Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark at first. I'm like, I don't remember him being in this movie. And then I'm like, that's because he wasn't in this movie. But maybe it would have been cooler if he had been. I don't know.
Oh yeah, if I would have seen Belloc, I would have started paying better attention, probably
a little more attention, right?
Yeah.
But But he comes barging out of the medical hut, sees what's going on, and runs down to stop the soldier from stabbing him. And we come to find out that this guy's from the London College of Medicine, and he has, of course, misidentified our two heroes as being Doctors Trowbridge and Greenbaum, who are part of the United Nations health effort, more or less a Doctors Without Borders thing, thus saving them and giving them a cover excuse to drive the movie forward.
Yes.
Because that's really all anything does in here. It's just the movie forward.
Forward, yeah.
So Fitzhume and Milburn, they're led into a medical tent where they are introduced to all of the other doctors there. I know I've been bagging on how things are drawn out in this particular thing.
This one works.
This is the funniest scene in the movie.
It probably
is.
The
only one I remember other than Bob Hope.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, not a day goes by when if I'm shaking hands with people in a meeting or something like that, in my head, I'm like, doctor.
These are our newly arrived surgeons, Doctors Trowbridge and Greenbaum.
Doctor?
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 Doctor. Exactly. And one of my in my other life, I had a meeting where one of the people on the other end actually said it.
Oh, and he got the reference.
Right. Well, he said it, and then he said doctor, and I went doctor, and then he shook my boss's hand, and my boss got it. And my boss was like doctor, and it just went across the room. Everybody. It must have been something they just did at this particular place. And it was hilarious. It's too bad we had to tell them we weren't going to be using them anymore after that meeting. But good times.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the doctor thing goes on, and it goes on for a very long time. But I really don't mind it that much.
Yeah, no, that one works. I mean, especially too the fact that right after all the introductions, then they all leave and they do it all over again.
Right. It had enough of a pause that you could run it the second time and have it still be funny.
Right.
and of course, it's a smorgasbord of famous people that are in that.
That
tent right there.
That's
we got Terry Gilliam with a bad German accent. We got Ray Harryhausen moving much better than anything he ever put on film. And of course, we've got Donna Dixon in there. There's even a couple of other English actors who I've seen in a ton of other things from the 70s and the 80s.
Right.
But Donna Dixon is playing Karen Boyer, who is a doctor with all of these other people. She's also married to Dan Aykroyd, which means that everything that proceeds after that fact with Chevy Chase in that scene is very cringy and disgusting.
Yeah. It's a little weird. Like that's got to be weird. A weird situation when you're literally watching your wife because they were married, I think, at the time. Even
and they were married.
Yeah, to watch your wife, kissing
felt up by Chevy Chase.
Just cheaply felt up, like in a really cringy, gropey, not cool sort of way.
Part of me just kind of hopes that Aykroyd's like, that's as close as you're going to get, buddy. Doesn't matter how good looking you are.
Yeah.
But so after the whole doctor exchange, all the doctors go out. Fitzhume finds a way to be alone with Karen, and as she's asking him to perform an appendectomy on a patient in the camp, using it to kind of stroke his ego, saying, that he's a brilliant physician, and the other physicians would really like for him to perform the surgery so they could see such a master at work. He says, I can't. I've got nerve damage in the hand and can't do anything. And then the nerve damaged hand just jumps right to her boob.
Yeah.
Right to the boob. Right to the boob. So anyway, Fitzhume agrees to instruct Dr. Greenbaum on the surgery and have him be his set of hands. So Chevy gets a kiss in with Donna, and then Aykroyd comes in and sort of breaks it up, and it just, the creepiness, it's not ending. I don't know why this is such a problem for me. I have watched movies with married couples where they've had romantic scenes with other partners, and it hasn't been cringy like this one is.
But I
don't understand.
I think it's because it's Chevy Chase, honestly.
Yeah, I think so.
There's something about Chevy Chase that makes it feel almost more sinister.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Not clean, dirty. It's ew.
Yeah.
And I don't mean dirty in like a porn kind of way, just mean dirty in a
yuck way.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
good way.
But anyway, so Karen leaves and he's like, "You are good with your hands, right?" And then Bob Hope,
and then Bob Hope, just out of nowhere.
Then Bob Hope.
You're good with tools, aren't you? Devices, instruments.
What? Are you kidding? You're talking to Milbarge here. You want something converted, built, dismantled, repaired, and modified? You're talking to Mr. Hands.
Mind if I play through? Doctor? Glad I'm not sick.
Hey kids, Bob Hope.
Glad I'm not sick. And then off he goes. And, this is clearly kind of a homage to the road movies that Bob Hope did with Bing Crosby back in the 30s and the 40s.
Yeah. All the USOC stuff that he did.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, I think I remember something from an interview with Aykroyd on this where he basically said that was a huge impetus for this, was to kind of do a road movie type of thing.
Okay.
And can you imagine if this movie had been more successful, that maybe they did more things like this? But like the road movies were never the same characters. It was just the same two actors going to a destination and hilarity ensued.
Right.
So you had Road to Bali and Road to Morocco and all these exotic places that they just fumbled their way through into there. So if this had been more of a success, maybe we would have seen more movies like that with Aykroyd and Chase. Thankfully, it was not a success like that, so we didn't have to be put through it again.
Yeah, I got slammed by critics too. I did happen to read some critical review of this movie that was just said there's not a single laugh in this movie. It's just yeah.
It was the Ishtar of its generation. Look it up, kids. So we move on.
With a lower budget.
But with a much lower budget. Absolutely. Well, and less quality actors. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
So we get to the silly SNL skit with them trying to pull off the surgery. And so you basically have Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd performing a surgery together as more or less one person.
Right.
And with all the bumbling and going around, because either of them actually knows what they're going to do, there's the part where, the scalpel is kind of going down the body without cutting the body. And you see them glance over at the real doctor. One of the real doctors, the older guys, look at him and he's like, no.
He's shaking his head.
And then he just move it up. No.
How about
get over there? Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so ridiculous. And then just before they're getting ready to make the incision, the patient gets up, gasped, then falls back dead before they could do anything. And I probably should have pointed this out before, but this is like the head tribesman or something like that.
Right.
And the fact that they don't save this guy's life immediately turns all of the Afghani soldiers against them because they allowed him to die. So at this point, realizing the severity of where they're at, our two heroes make their way out of the tent and essentially run for it as the entire tribe, which is pissed off at them, follows along. They manage to steal an ambulance and are chased by soldiers on horseback. And then after a couple of close calls, they finally lose everybody. And at this point, we cut back to our CIA guys, Mr. Ruby and Mr. Keys, who are, for at least at this point in time, no apparent reason, driving into an old, dilapidated drive-in movie complex that actually has security gates on it and armed guards. The two armed guards in the guard shack are none other than Sam Raimi and Joel Cohen, who probably nobody knew at that point in time, or anybody. But Landis has the thing about putting directors in his movies.
Oh, is that a thing? That's like an ongoing.
Sure.
I didn't realize that.
I like in Blues Brothers, Steven Spielberg is the guy at the county assessor's office.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a thing for him. But the guards tell Mr. Ruby that the drive-in is closed, and Ruby tells him, "We're with the Ace Tomato Company."
And I love how they tried to make that sound so like important and cool and
yeah. What is it? We're with Universal Exports. That's basically what they're trying to say.
Yeah, it's a far cry from Universal Exports.
Oh, very, very far cry. So they're let inside the facility, and they're greeted by more security guards, one of whom is BB Mother Effin King.
I know. It's just, what?
Why is he in that movie?
I think didn't he make the rounds though? I feel like during that era, he made several cameos in a bunch of different movies.
He had a renaissance back in the mid '80s.
Yeah.
So it might have just been the kind of the it thing or something like that. Although, hold on, the Wayback Machine is functioning in my brain now. I think he was doing some sort of promotional thing with Pepsi at the time.
Oh, that would make perfect sense. Because then what's the next thing? What's the next thing that happens?
Head into the building and have a Pepsi.
Have yourself a Pepsi.
That's right. And so they go into the building. They find what's funny is they walk past a Pepsi vending machine. Which they didn't even bother to try it.
Well, I noticed that too, because I'm watching that and I'm like, wait, they just passed it. Like they went to the less obvious one.
Right. In a dilapidated movie theater. Let's go to the fountain machine that probably doesn't work.
Yeah.
They go over there, they hit the springer on the back for the soft drink machine, and some guardrails pop up around them, and in a very Get Smart fashion.
Yeah.
They jump into a high-speed elevator. Oh my gosh, that was so bad. So bad.
Yeah, I mean, they might as well, not that I should even be pointing out things that would kill them in a comedy, but this would kill them. That was going so fast.
Or at the very least, they should have their faces all done up and their hair back like Aykroyd and Chase earlier in the movie.
Yeah, at least you could have had a callback.
So anyway, they get to the bottom of the elevator, and General Sline and the other general are waiting for them down at the bottom, and we see it's all kind of satellites imagery, sort of a NASA-y thing going on there. It's clearly like a military bunker of some sort.
Well, here's a question for you. Did you ever figure out what the abbreviation meant for WAP? Because they said, welcome to WAP. It's like WAP, I think. But I never found out what it actually stood for.
I thought it might have been in the trivia, but there's a lot of trivia here and none of it's very interesting. So it is in fact trivial. I think they said it in the movie because it reminded me of Whopper from War Games.
Oh,
so I'm like, you remember?
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if it was the similar acronym or something like that, but weapons offensive platform, we only paid money for lasers. It could just be them picking on Italian people. I don't know.
I felt like that was a missed opportunity. Like they should have had some silly abbreviation for it.
Even in War Games, they went ahead and explained what it meant.
Right.
You had the nebbish computer guy telling you, well, it's Whopper. It stands for War something, 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 something. Maybe there was a scene where they explained it and they just cut it out for time because, this movie ran so long. Maybe it just felt like it ran long.
Indeed.
But anyway, so they're in this bunkery, missile-y, rockety kind of looking place. And they're kind of discussing where the situation is with things, what's happening. And so Ruby gets a call.
Oh, my God. Dude, honestly, this might be the funniest part of the movie for me personally. Like, I cannot get over this.
It's basically Milburn is calling from a public payphone in Pakistan, the CIA, to tell them that they're in location and giving them all the information that you basically would need to know to find them.
Yeah.
Over an open line. and the funnier bit is that Keyes is like, they told this to you over a public telephone? And the soldier replies back to him, no, sir. The AT&T operator told our operator.
that was literally probably the funniest part of the entire movie, which is saying something that this was what did it.
In a better movie, that thing would have been twice as hilarious.
Yeah.
Instead of just being a shiny turd in a toilet full of not shiny turds.
Yeah.
So anyway, the generals and the misters decide to keep Fitzhugh and Milburn out there even longer to continue to draw attention away from the real G20's missions. So they're told to cross the Soviet Pamir district and wait for the contact on the road to Dushanbe, which we then are told is probably the most dangerous place for them to be for what they are doing. Clearly don't care whether the two of them die or not at this point.
Anything, they're probably trying to get them to die.
Yeah, exactly. Because at this point, all they're going to do is continue to screw the mission up. But it's their own fault for putting them in there. Just saying. I'm just saying. So a quick history lesson for all of the youngins out there. Pamir is no longer part of Russia. Back when Russia was part of the Soviet Union, it was much bigger than it is now.
Indeed.
And when it stopped being the Soviet Union, little pieces were like, we don't want to be part of you anymore, Russia.
Imagine
we
that.
want to be our own thing again. Imagine that, right?
Who could have thunk that?
So now it's Tajikistan.
Indeed.
All those wonderful stands at the bottom of Russia.
All the
I would
stands.
just want to say Russia. All the stands. Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Stan the Man, South Park Stan. I think it's funny that it used to be back in the 80s when they would make up a fake place that sounded vaguely Russian or Slavic in some way.
Right.
You know, they put a Sinki or Ev or something on the end of things like that.
Right.
Nowadays, when we're picking up fake things, everything's got a stand at the end.
Just
of it,
add
right?
a stand to the end.
Right. In fact, if we ever do a movie script where we have to go somewhere in the Middle East, we should just call it Add a Stand. That's the name of the company or the country.
Yeah, exactly. Just anything Eastern European, Addistan. We have to go into Addistan.
So anyway, the other general is a little irritated at Ruby for telling them to go to the road to Dushanbe because it is practically the strike zone. But Ruby insists that they're going to get picked off well before that because it's so dangerous to get there. So after getting their orders, Milbarge figures the best way to get across the border is to sell the ambulance they stole, ditch the American clothes, and go native. So from there, they hop on a bus and head to the Pamir border. And of course, you get that classic third world country bus transit thing going on there.
I mean, you've seen it in everything from Romancing the Stone to I'm sure there's a million other ones. That was the first one that comes to my mind.
Right. The two white people in a bus full of brown people. It's
right.
Basically what that joke is.
The 80s.
The 80s. As they're on the bus, they actually notice Karen and the doctor that saved them from being hung up and stabbed on a Jeep passing them. Eventually, they wind up at a toll road, and Karen is there. Chevy heads over to flirt some more because, why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But she tells him not to touch her, and then she takes off on horseback. Fitzhugh finds Milbarge, who's been entertained by a marionette show. He's just sitting there all doofy, looking at puppets.
I know, he's just like,
childlike.
It's so weird. It's such a weird little. I understand what they were trying to they're trying to paint him in a certain light, but it's just like, it's in a better movie, it might have worked, but in this movie, it's just sort of like, okay.
Again, it did. In Ghostbusters, it worked better. Ray Stantz is the same character as Milburn.
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
He's the guy with the knowledge, but he's got that childlike sense of wonder. I mean, you watch it going, I tried to think of the most innocent thing from my childhood, something that could possibly hurt any of us. What did you think of, Ray? It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah.
Same character, just much more successful.
Yes.
So Dr. Boyer Karen takes off on horseback. Fitzhugh finds Milbarge, who at the marionette show, and then complains about getting the cold shoulder from Boyer. Really? Come on. Milbarge then explains that she isn't a doctor either, He then explains that the metal case that she had in her hand was a satellite scrambler terminal, because you could tell those sort of things from
just from the case. Yeah, of course.
Sure. This is where we get the movie title shoehorned into the dialogue. My least favorite thing about any movie, when Chevy says, "So they're spies like us." They should have looked at the camera when they said that.
Right. And then you should have heard in the background, spies like us.
I mean, the only thing that would have made that better was somebody with a trumpet and a mute going.
If they would have broke the fourth wall, it might have been funny again.
I agree. But sadly, that choice was not made. So,
no.
Milbart says they're spies, but they're not necessarily on their side. So, maybe your dick's not so dumb, he says. It got me through high school, says Chevy. Oy.
Yeah.
I'm almost at a point where I just want to stop, but I have to keep going, Ben. I have to keep going.
We're gonna make it through. We're
getting around to Hyundai. I think we're gonna be fine. Anyway, the two of them follow Karen from afar on Camelback, which, just saying, it sounds ridiculous.
At
some point, the camel decides that it isn't having any more with walking and just decides to sit down. And the two of them realize that they're going to have to walk from there.
That part is kind of
weird.
funny. But
yeah. It's weird because they basically just leave the camel there and head into the mountains. But I feel like maybe the camel's probably all right.
The camel will probably be okay.
Probably knows a lot more about surviving in the desert than people do. So I think
and then on top of it too, I mean, you see, if you're somebody who lives in that part of the world and you happen upon a camel, it's a free camel. So
exactly,
that's an you're going to give it some water and take care of it and probably sell it to somebody else and make some money off it. So there you go.
It's your camel now. Your camel now. So
I do find it funny when they're getting followed, when the doctor and the quote unquote doctors are being followed by Chevy and Aykroyd, and they're like, "Do you think those guys are following them?" The other doctor's like, "Nah." It's like, really? There's nobody else out here. What else do you think is going on?
Right. Just two guys on a camels, man.
Yeah.
They're just Bedouins out for a journey in the sand.
Of course. Headed towards the Dushanbe Road also.
Yes, exactly. Because it's not a dangerous place in the world. They should just be going the same way. Yeah, they leave the camel. They head into the mountains. And just as they approach the Dushanbe Road, we then cut back to the generals and the CIA officers inside the base and figure out that the base is part of the Star Wars program, which, once again, kids, not the stuff you're watching on Disney Plus with The Mandalorian.
Yes.
But back in the 80s, they actually had this laser-based initiative to shoot down nuclear missiles that Ronald Reagan called the Star Wars program.
Well, we'll call it the Star Wars program.
We're gonna put satellites in space with gigantic laser beams, and we're just gonna shoot them right out of the sky.
Because that'll work.
Because that will work. But so the base is the Star Wars program, and in addition, we find out that the real G20s will be at the launch site within the next day. And have they established at this point that the whole reason they're going there is to launch the missile so they can test the laser? Or does that come later in the movie?
That comes
because
even
I can't
later.
remember.
Even later.
My God.
Even later.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's even later.
I have to apologize to our listeners that I'm having trouble recalling so much of the stuff. I watched this movie twice, and once just 2 days ago, and I can't remember anything about it except for what I hated about it, which was most of it.
You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of when I'm terrible at learning foreign languages. And when I went back and got my degree, I had to take a foreign language, and I hated doing it so much that literally within a month after I finished my last course, of said foreign language, of which I took like 2 years of it, 2 or 3 years of it. I literally forgot all of it within a month and a half because I hated it so much.
Yeah. No, that was me with learning Hebrew, man. Once I was done with that stuff, I was done with it. I could say shalom, and that's about it. I could look at something and say, that's Hebrew. Oh, what does it say? Not a clue. Something in
Don't
Hebrew.
know.
Something in Hebrew. Just blindly forgetting everything that this movie had in it. It's kind of fun. I'm sort of reliving it going through the notes here. Anyway, so the boys get on the Dushanbe Road and it's nighttime. You know, we're getting to cold weather now because they're going through the mountains.
Yes.
And so they've put on furry
They're big
coats
fuzzy
and hats and if you see the poster, you'll see what I'm talking about. Almost immediately, they're approached by the Russian Highway Patrol. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Ponch and John of the Soviet Union.
Which is so funny. It's like why would you even need a highway patrol in this area on the Dushanbe Road of all places?
Right.
The only buddy that's going down that road is military. So why would you just are we gonna like be handing out speeding tickets for like Russian soldiers who are driving too fast?
Right. No, just Dan Aykroyd being a little clever, I think. I don't know, but
yeah.
Milbarge makes a run for it, but Fitzhume freezes up and is taken into custody. Inside the police station, the police are barking Russian at him, but Chevy doesn't do Russian. And so he's doing his Chevy thing, trying to talk his way out of it. And then we see the KGB guys from earlier in the movie who come into him and start talking in English.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to Milbarge, who's still out hiking in the snow, cursing Fitzhume for not running. And then we cut back to the police station where the KGB guys are grilling Fitzhume, and we get more Chevy Chase-isms as we go through there.
Yeah.
And this, you would have thought he would have actually had an opportunity to shine here because he's so much better being funny when he's by himself. But
yeah,
no,
not really.
So sadly, most of them are not hitting the funny. And so we cut back to now Boyer and the other doctor who are about to start hiking on foot. When Soviet soldiers approach, the gunfight breaks out between them and the doctor gets killed. And nearby, Milbarge, who hears the gunfire, starts heading towards it because that makes perfect sense. Only loses balance, and then when he rolls down the hill in excessive fashion, Princess Bride style.
Yeah, Princess Bride was the first thing that came to mind when I saw that.
He finally hits the bottom, landing on top of the dead Russian soldiers. And when he gets up, he's greeted at gunpoint by Karen. At this point, he explains who he is and who she is, which is, in fact, the actual GLG-20 agent, and the dead doctor was her partner. At this point, she also lets it slip that Milbarge and Fitzhume were meant to be decoys when she realizes that they're also the agents.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you're the other GLG-20s, the decoys.
Right.
Like she's all like happy about it, like that she identified it like, thanks, bitch.
Exactly. So Milbarge gets all butthurt, but Karen wants him to help her complete the mission. And Milbarge says, I'm only focused on saving Fitzhume at the moment because that's his partner and he's not going to leave him there to die.
Right.
And so that thankfully gets us through Act 2 and moves us gratefully into Act 3.
So from here, we get Milbarge flying down the road on horseback towards the highway patrol, the Russian highway patrol office, where Fitzhume is being escorted by the KGB. Milbarge lets loose with an Uzi in each hand, and the Russians scatter. Milbarge tries to pull Fitzhume onto his horse and naturally falls off the horse, and then they're forced into a shootout. And then we get that silly little grenade bit with Chevy standing up. That part is kind of funny, where he stands up with the grenade and just sort of casually throws it
tosses
back.
it.
Tosses it back at them. And then they're back on the horse and off into the woods again. And you get the little hi-oh silver away. so they meet back up with Boyer, and they're walking along the road when they hear Soulfinger by the Bar-Kays, which is such a non sequitur, but seemingly appropriate for the time. Also, great song, actually. I love that song. Anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's funny, though, that, the Russians are all gathered around the fire.
Yeah.
And he pulls out the boombox and he's like, Soulfinger.
Soulfinger.
So they go investigate, only to find the missile site where the Russian rocket crew are dancing around said boombox. And in addition, we get our first look at Vanessa Angel, aka Russian rocket crew member, who is still conveniently getting back into her heavy snow gear, which is so funny. Again, she's in a onesie, and the only thing she's got underneath the onesie is
bra panties.
Yeah, really nice lingerie. So, but it is a highlight for me. So anyway, So from there, Boyer is trying to convince the two of them to help her seize control of the rocket, but Milbarge is like, no way, and he's not willing to kill anyone, and they're basically ready to go home. But then Boyer launches into this ultra corny patriotic duty. I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Ask not what you can do for your country, all that type of bullshit. And,
right.
And then also she lets them know that she has a tranquilizer gun and that they don't have to kill anybody. They're just going to tranquilize them while they get the mission accomplished. So side note, though, when she's giving said corny speech, it's really funny when Karen's like, she says, the past 2.5 years preparing for this. I've spent the past 2.5 years preparing for this penetration. And Chevy Chase just kind of is like, like the look from Chevy during that whole moment. So anyway, so then we're back in the secret underground lair. I mean, military base at WAP, and the guys are at the computers. It looks like they're setting coordinates or something. We don't exactly know just yet. And General Sline then orders the base to go to lockdown and go to level yellow. And that's when we get what is supposed to be the super impressive reveal of these giant lasers that come up from the ground. Lasers that come up from the ground. Then we go back to seeing the Russia rocket crew sitting around the campfire next to the giant rocket missile, yucking it up, drinking vodka like you do, listening to Soulfinger. When we see Milbarge and Fitzhume's brilliant idea to get close enough to the crew to tranquilize them. And they're wearing all the lights and the shiny shit and the bulbs and the mirrors hanging down from their hats. And all I can think is, where on fucking earth did they get all this shit? Like, where did they have all this stuff to no, there was, they did not have all this on them to make this stuff. But anyway, sure. Anyway, so the Mama Russian, clearly because that's the only way I can identify her, because she kind of seems like the Mama Russian. So, well,
yeah, she clearly was doing that in there, kind of the one that was in charge of everything and everybody deferred to her.
Right. So she starts saying that when she was a girl, there were beings from the sky that came down and stole an ox. Oh, 80s Russian stereotyping. So anyway, although honestly, a lot of that still happens. But anyway, the Russians shoot at their feet, and then we get Chevy and Aykroyd faking their death or whatever it is. He's like, do what I do. Like spins around and falls over and lands on his back with his legs up in the air. And it's kind of sort of funny. I don't know.
Is it though?
Is it? Yeah, I don't know. But the Russians moving closer out of curiosity, of course, and that's when they shoot them with the tranquilizers. So then we're back at WAP, and they open the ground deflectors, which are these big mirrors that are supposed to channel all this laser power into the main screen or whatever it is. So hokey. It's just like just this. Oh my God. I can't even. So anyway, so we flip back to Russia, and now our GLG 20s are getting instructions on how to operate this rocket. The Russian crew, they're all like in a dog pile on this, like all knocked out on the side. And they're getting these instructions on how to operate this rocket, which is kind of sort of funny just because the instructions are kind of written like a manual for a stereo or something. Anyway, they follow these directions without really knowing what they're setting in motion. And again, we still don't know what's going on.
We don't.
Up until the point that it actually happens, we don't know what's going on. And it basically allows the WAP control center or whatever to set coordinates to try and do a live test on a live nuclear missile. So the satellites in space move into position, and then they send Ackroyd a numbered sequence, which basically tells the rocket to launch using the coordinates from WAP. So the rocket suddenly lifts and launches, and they're basically convinced they just started World War III. And with that, they all partner up and decide to get some before the world ends, which actually a pretty good idea. But actually maybe the most realistic part of the whole movie. So
probably yes.
I did think it was kind of funny when they're all pairing off and the two guys kind of give each other looks. Very progressive for 1985. So
no doubt.
So, and then granted, Ackroyd didn't get to go in a tent with his wife, but he did okay.
With the brunette missile technician, absolutely.
Yeah, he did okay. He did okay. So anyway, yeah. The nuke is headed into space, and WAP is trying to intercept it with its fancy laser. And I do love the quick shot of Mr. Ruby and Mr. Keyes eating cookies and drinking coffee as this incredibly serious shit is going down. They're just all with this delicate cup of coffee and like goofy little dudes like eating their cookies and drinking coffee or whatever.
Yes.
But the giant laser misses the missile. And wow, bad special effects. Because when the laser comes off of that screen in the drive-in theater, I'm just, oh my God. Like it's just, wow. I mean, I know it's 1985, but like, come on.
When you think about it, it's really the only special effect per se in the movie.
Right.
So maybe there wasn't much budget left for it. Who knows?
Well, probably all went towards just paying for Chevy Chase. So
probably.
So suddenly they're all freaking out that the laser missed the missile, and it ends up hitting the MTV satellite, and we get the very typical make fun of the teenager joke where they're like, "Whoa, cool," or whatever. They show the kids in the bedroom watching MTV, and yeah. So anyway, Ruby and Keyes are insisting they contact the president to let him know this wasn't an attack by Russia, except for Sline, who kind of seems like he was hoping this would all happen. Like he was kind of hoping that this was like going to be the instigating factor that starts World War III. So he even gives that speech that sort of plays to that, where he's, he said, what's the point of building up this arsenal if we're never going to use it type of thing.
Right.
So, but yeah, Ruby and Keyes are super freaking out. And the other general is like, relax, we can wait it out here for the next 17 months. Like, that's a great option. Like, that's like, oh, what an upside. So then
all the Pepsi you can drink.
That's right, with BB King. So then we cut back to a post-coitus Ackroyd with the scorchingly attractive brunette when he realizes in his euphoria that he can redirect the rocket with pieces parts from the SAT scram terminal So in a goofy, everyone in their jammies moment, the Russians work with the GLG-20s to jerry-rig all this together. And I will say Chevy is, at least to me, the funniest part of this moment, though, between the bring it here, and he starts bringing the rock to him, and he's like, not the rock. And then just him trying to hold together the raw wires, and he's shaking. This is that whole thing. So within moments, they've redirected the rocket and sent it into space and explode, and to explode. And they've saved the day. And then Chevy's like, can I borrow your tent? So then we cut back to WAP, where Sline looks super bummed. He didn't get to blow up all kinds of shit. And then that's when the real military breaks into the base and arrests everybody. So, ta-da. So then we get the epilogue, which might be another moment that's actually kind of a little bit better put together, I guess.
Sure.
Where it's this TV broadcast where we see Edwin Newman reporting on disarmament talks in Geneva between the USA and Russia. And then Fitzhume comes out of the room and he's surrounded by the press, and Newman identifies him as the chief delegate in these talks. And Fitzhume's basically just sort of gives him some garbage talk. He just says it's a sensitive juncture.
It's the quarterback speech, but for politicians.
Yeah, we're gonna give it 110%, that whole thing. So, but then we cut to the room, and they're basically just drinking vodka and negotiating by playing a round of Trivial Pursuit. And the end.
Finny.
That's the end. That's the end of this movie. Oh my God.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Whew. So what to say about this one? Since this comedy it's hard to measure it on the same scale. Although that being said, it's not a very funny movie.
No.
It's definitely one of those ones where it wasn't reviewed well at the time, but I was so young that I just kind of thought it was funny. And now that I'm an adult, it's really more just an eye roll fest. I'm just every joke, I'm just like, ugh, okay, sure, fine, fine, okay. Every once in a while, Chevy still had that Cheviness that was occasionally brilliant. Like I think about that moment when he's in the tent and he's going to sit down next to Karen, and he clunks up against like all the shit that was hanging on like the canteens and all the metal pots and pans, and of course he fumbles all over it, and that whole clumsy thing that he does. Like little moments like that still work. But the other part of this is I've seen good spy comedies, and sadly this is definitely not one of them. Like
no.
My favorite spy comedies tend to lean into the tropes, and that's sort of what sells the humor. Whereas this is clearly just SNL skits that are tied together very loosely by a loose spy plot, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and even the skits themselves are sort of half baked. So chances are I will probably never revisit this movie again.
Well, I most certainly will not. And I said it throughout the podcast. I mean, to see what Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd were capable of doing in other movies, even movies directed by John Landis. I mean, Chevy Chase and the Three Amigos.
Yeah, that was a great movie. Yeah.
And, Aykroyd in Trading Places. I think it was just the two of them just didn't work well together.
I would almost argue that Chevy Chase doesn't work well with anybody. Like even with the Three Amigos thing, you also have in that movie Steve Martin and Martin Short.
Right.
And those two are best friends.
Right.
And
they do a lot of the heavy lifting in that movie.
Exactly. And so Chevy's just sort of there conveniently to add one other element, but the movie isn't dependent on him for all the funny, whereas this movie is almost entirely dependent on him for all the funny.
Right.
It doesn't work. Like he's only funny when he's all by himself, when he's the sole star of the show.
Right. And two of his funniest scenes in this movie are when it's just him without Dan Aykroyd in it.
Yeah, just doing him.
It is what it is.
It is what
we don't
it
ever
is.
have to watch it again. Nobody has to watch this again if they don't want to.
That's right. Yeah. So glad that is. I think I'm glad that's in the rear view now. But yeah. But join us next time on Central Intelligence Cinema, because we're going to swing that pendulum way the other way. We're going to get serious. We're going to go and see some James Bond. We're going to do a review of Goldfinger because it's the right goddamn thing to do.
Amen, brother.
Indeed. And with that, I'm Ben.
I'm Jason.
And the CIC will return with more missions, more martinis, and more mayhem.